Hello and welcome to your weekly astrology forecast. My name is Laura Chung, and I'm so happy that you're here and that you're back. And this is the astrology forecast for the week of November 17th through the 23rd. There's a lot going on, and I'm sorry that this came out late, but I'm definitely having a Mercury retrograde moment here. I'm currently teaching my class and I'm preparing the slides and the lesson plan. So I kind of got backed up there. And I'm also writing my book. Oh my gosh. So a lot of Mercury things happening. And Mercury is making a lot of moves this week. So I think y'all can relate to it. And when Mercury is in Sagittarius, I don't know about you, but things just feel like they're getting chaotic and unhinged, and people are just saying things. And it's been a wild retrograde, y'all. So let's get into it because this is a busy week. So buckle up. On November 17th, the Sun in Scorpio will trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 25 degrees. And in the same day, the Sun in Scorpio will trine Saturn in retrograde in Pisces at 25 degrees. And I mentioned last week during last week's forecast that Saturn and Jupiter don't exactly meet each other in an exact trine until August 31st, I believe, of 2026. But they are within 10 minutes of each other. They are both at 25 degrees. And now Jupiter and Saturn are still retrograde. And so there is something that Jupiter and Saturn are trying to build, are trying to solidify like all of your expansions throughout this year. And the sun meeting in this grand water trine is very supportive. Trines happen between the same element. So all of the trines happen when they're in the same element. So water is the element here. The sun in Scorpio, Jupiter in Cancer, and Saturn in Pisces. And I think this is just really supportive. Energy flows really easily. And so the sun represents our life force energy, our creative expression, how we show up, how we're seen. And when it meets in a supportive trine with Jupiter and Saturn, this is something being solidified, like something moving very easily. On the same day, Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius will sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree. And this is a connection that is 60 degrees. It's between two supportive elements. So you need air to build fire. And Mercury retrograde is all about reflecting, reviewing, recalibrating in the ways that you communicate, maybe your belief systems. And it's making a supportive connection to Pluto in Aquarius. So this could be a great day to reach out to a community, to and the thing is what I've noticed about this Mercury retrograde is getting into fights with people who don't have the same belief systems. Like I went away this weekend to hang out with my college roommates who I've known for 25 years. We met freshman year of college, but 25 years, like we've grown apart, we've experienced different things. We're like different people at this stage. And there were like little arguments, pockets of arguments here and there based on our conflicting belief systems. And that's what happens when you are with people during a Mercury retrograde. Like some of those belief systems can be challenged. And even though this is a supportive aspect, you can be getting into it, like bringing up old wounds with somebody, because Pluto is the god of the underworld, if you're in a group setting. So trines and sextiles are supportive, they're harmonious. Sextiles are in the nature of Venus, trines are in the nature of Jupiter, but it doesn't mean that what you experience from them is good or bad because this is energy flowing. So if you happen to be in a situation where you're around people that like you do not share shared values, this could just be an energy where you do experience some backlash or um you do experience a challenge in which not everyone agrees with you. So how I would use the Grand Water Trine is to do some healing work, to do some water magic, go to a sauna, go to a bathhouse, go to the ocean if you have access to that. cry, do some like reflection on the last year of 2025 and how you personally have grown throughout this year. And then also, if you feel called to share your ideas with people, and maybe even because Mercury retrogrades bring you back to a previous timeline. And if you have this opportunity to make amends with somebody and kind of like go really deep in your conversation, Mercury is about communication and Pluto brings you into like the hidden realm. If you have that capacity to go to the past and revisit something, this is a good day to do it. On November 18th, Mercury will retrograde back into Scorpio. And so Mercury goes from its detriment to Sagittarius into a more like non-verbal place in Scorpio. It's more about observing, it's more about doing deep research. And yeah, it's less verbal, but more internalized and more about like doing due diligence. On November 19th, Venus and Scorpio will trine the North Node in Pisces at 15 degrees. And I noted this. Normally, I don't include transits with the North Node, but this is the eclipse degree. And so there was a eclipse back in September, the total lunar eclipse on September 7th at 15 degrees of Pisces. So Venus is activating this North Node, this eclipse degree, in a supportive trine. So somebody from your past could be coming through, or some synchronized moment could happen. And you just feel like this person was meant to cross your path at this specific moment in your life. So you want to look at your Pisces house and where you've been having eclipses, and you're getting a nice trine from Venus. Venus is a relational planet. Venus is about your relationships, investment, money, value, worth. And sure, it's in its detriment of Scorpio, but I think when it's in a supportive trine like this, it's giving you this opportunity to it's giving you this opportunity to have some sort of like physical manifestation of that North Node in Pisces. So again, look at where you have Pisces in your personal chart. But it's activating that eclipse degree. So think back to what was going on in September, specifically September 7th, when there was a lunar eclipse here. There was a full moon here. On the same day, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio will oppose Uranus retrograde in Taurus at 29 degrees. So this could be unexpected news. This could just be a turn of events that you weren't expecting. But I feel like at this point, this is the second pass of Mercury opposing Uranus, and this is at the anaretic degree. So you might have already gotten a preview of this during the pre-shadow, which would have been, um, I'm trying to think when that was. I think it was sometime in, um, huh, sorry that, oh yeah, Mercury, and it was October 29th when Mercury in Sagittarius was opposing Uranus retrograde in Gemini at 0 degrees. So you might have gotten an unexpected news that day, or technological like glitches or something like that. And now at this moment, when Mercury is retrograde back in Scorpio, you're like rectifying that situation. So for example, this is such like an astrology, like basic bitch kind of delineation. But let's say at Mercury in Sagittarius opposing Uranus and Gemini, your computer just like broke down. And now during the retrograde, you're like, okay, what computer should I get? Should I order a refurbished one, which I recommend? And you're kind of going through that like reflection review moment of doing your due diligence and just making sure that whatever you are buying is going to be the best for you at this moment. Or let's say this had more to do with like a relational thing. You got into an argument with somebody around October 29th with that opposition to Uranus, and now you're reaching back out to that person to kind of confront each other and say, hey, can we like clear the air? These are just examples. And then Mercury retrograde will trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. So, whatever does happen, I think there is an opportunity here with all of these transits happening at once because Venus in Scorpio trining the North Node in Pisces and Mercury retrograde in Scorpio trining Neptune. There is some sort of like healing opportunity, right? There's some sort of opportunity to make amends here. And with that opposition, it's your ability to confront these things. So you want to pay attention to November 19th. Like I said, each day this week, there's like multiple transits happening, but I think whatever you were going through in the pre-shadow, you're going to get glimpses of what your retrograde story and how it needs to be course corrected is going to start to show up this week. So on November 20th, Uranus retrograde in Taurus will sextile Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. And this is like the last time that these two will come together in a harmonious aspect. Sextiles, again, are between two elements that support each other, and Earth forms a container for water. And this is, again, at the anaretic degree. And this is very supportive. And this is very Uranus is about innovation, disruption, change. Neptune is about our imagination and about dreaming. So this is just kind of the last moment where during these transits, you're like, okay, am I doing the thing that I imagined, that I'm creating this change? Is it actually happening? Is it coming into fruition? On the same day, there is a new moon in Scorpio at 28 degrees at 1:47 Eastern time, AM Eastern time. And then on later on, like 3 hours later, there's a Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun in Scorpio at 28 degrees. And this is a Cazimi, and we are officially at the midway point of this Mercury retrograde. So I'm actually going to share the chart so I could show you what this new moon in Scorpio is all about. So a new moon is a conjunction, and a conjunction is an aspect which is when planets are in the same sign at the same degree. So both the sun and the moon are here at 28 degrees of Scorpio. And the ruler of this new moon is Mars in Sagittarius at 11 degrees, and they are in inversion to each other, so they don't witness each other. So this new moon is about setting intentions. It's a new beginning. It is a new cycle, right? And whatever it is, you're taking actions on your beliefs, on your faith. Okay. And it's something that you might not really be privy to yet, but there's something percolating. Now, like I mentioned, later on in the day, you're getting this Mercury Cazimi like 3 hours later. And so Mercury is technically that Cazimi is forming or applying as this new moon is exact. And so when a planet goes into the heart of the sun, that's what Cazimi means. The planet is being reborn. So Mercury is being reborn. So you might get like incredible downloads at this time. And like I said, a signature of this chart is that Mercury is separating from its opposition to Uranus in Taurus, and the moon and the new moon is applying to its opposition to Uranus. So there is some unexpected feature of this new moon. So whatever seed you're planting, whatever you are intending at this new moon, there is some disruption, there is some confrontation, that there is something that is unexpected about this new moon signature. And conjunct the new moon, it is kind of a wide orb. I would say it's 12 degrees, which is kind of a wide orb, but Venus is also co-present with this new moon. So technically there's a stellium here of Scorpio. So there's a lot of Scorpio energy. And what I like about this new moon is that all of this Scorpio, right, is in a trine to Saturn and Neptune in Pisces and also Jupiter in Cancer. So there is some support with this new moon. Like, sure, the new moon is separating and applying to Neptune in a trine, but there is some support here. There's some foundation. There's some structure or framework that you are working with that's not totally not anchored, you know? So My personal feelings about this new moon is I think this is a great day to um, intend to do some shadow work, to do some death, something with death, allowing the old parts of you to die, giving reverence to your ancestors, ancestral elevation, veneration, and committing to a practice of your own healing and disrupting whatever it is that, like these habits that have been holding you back. And the disruption nature obviously is that opposition to Uranus. But this commitment, right, the trine to Saturn, and this commitment to self and also healing, the trine to Jupiter, is sort of embedded in this new moon in Scorpio. Like I said, this is such a good day on November 20th to do some sort of like ritual practice, be available to receive the downloads because again, there's going to be a Cazimi on that day. And yeah, it's just a beautiful day to set intentions for something new to emerge, and you might figure that out along the 6 month journey until the full moon in Scorpio that will happen sometime in the spring. On November 21st, the sun will ingress into Sagittarius. So happy solar return to all the Sagittarians out there. We are officially in Sagittarius season. So we go from the fixed water sign of Scorpio to the mutable fire sign of Sagittarius. Different vibes for sure. On the same day, the sun in Scorpio, before it moves into Sagittarius, will oppose Uranus retrograde in Taurus, and then it will trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 29 degrees. So the sun from that new moon is making a connection to that Uranus. So some sort of like commitment or like realization that you have to really change a habit, that you really have to disrupt, that you really have to like start, moving things along. And then that sun to trine Neptune retrograde in Pisces is just a beautiful signature of like, again, recognizing, am I expressing myself in my most authentic way, in my most like whatever my dream is, am I moving towards it in a way that makes me feel authentic? You can also think back to the beginning of the beginning of this week when the sun, when was it? When Mercury was trine to Neptune. That was November 19th. And think of like the clues or the downloads that you were getting at that time. And then on November 22nd, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio will trine Saturn retrograde in Pisces at 25 degrees. And then on the same day, it will trine Jupiter retrograde in Cancer at 24 degrees. So again, these water trines, like I was mentioning, for the majority of November, are really supportive. You'll have the sun trining Jupiter and Saturn and Neptune, and then now you're having Mercury trace those steps as well. So there is something about your expressiveness and how you show up, and also how you speak and how you internalize things and how you think about things, and how they're being supported by this bigger system that you're creating. I really like when Mercury connects with Jupiter in a harmonious way because this is like sharing your ideas and expanding on these ideas that you've been kind of like mulling over. And Mercury, whenever Mercury connects with Saturn in a harmonious way, this is like blocking in and having a serious conversation, but that's received by the other person. So November 22nd can be a really great day, a really supportive day to just be honest with your feelings and say the thing that has been on your mind and on your heart. And you want to take advantage of that. And you want to take advantage of those moments where it will be received well versus like, let's say an opposition or a square where you're going to compete with ideas or feelings. So that's really nice. And I really like all this water energy just because like Water is about flow. Water is about ease and healing and receptivity and receiving. It's not necessarily a week to force things to happen. It's not necessarily a week to like hustle and grind, but more taking a more yin feminine approach to things and being like, listen, if this is not going to work out, then I surrender to what will work out. I'm not going to push, I'm not going to chase, I'm just going to allow things to come to me. On November 23rd, the Sun in Sagittarius will sextile Pluto in Aquarius at 1 degree. And again, this is very supportive. This is like, this is such a good day on November 23rd, which I think is a Sunday, is to do some kind of community service. Go to a church and donate to a church, start a food bank at your church, or donate to a food bank, or organize with people and be like, hey, this is the holiday season. A lot of people probably are without basic needs. And so, as the Sun in Sagittarius person ruled by Jupiter, I'm going to extend my generosity to other people. But I know that my efforts will be more impactful if I organize with the community. So, yeah, there's a lot going on this week. Like I said, Mercury is making a lot of moves. So you could just be really like busy in your mind, busy in your life. This is the week before what is known as Thanksgiving, but ultimately is the remembrance of the indigenous genocide of Turtle Island. And for a lot of people, it's very complicated. For a lot of people, they're not close to their family. And so there's just a lot of feelings and then a lot of thoughts and right like conflicting belief systems, and this is usually the time of season where you're confronted with those things like I've been experiencing, which is why I had to take some time off of social media because I was just getting into fights with people, and I'm just like, okay. Let me take a moment to like not talk as much and just like listen and receive and just observe, So I think that's the shift. Mercury in Sag is like, "Bah, bah, 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 this is my beliefs and bah, 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 bah." And then when Mercury goes back into Scorpio, it's kind of like, all right, like if I truly believe in this thing, like if I truly believe that everyone deserves to eat and that should be free, then why do I gotta argue about that? Like, I only argue if my beliefs are challenged and I want to change that person's mind or, something like that. So, like I said, it's a busy week. So it's mostly water trines. I don't think this is a week to push yourself. I think it's more of a week to be receiving, to be in the feminine, to not push, and to just allow things to happen. And then when you do have those moments of like Sagittarius, sextile, Pluto, and Aquarius, like the Sun and Mercury, that's when you can try to connect with people and try to like come to a compromise or see eye to eye on something. So that is the week ahead. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.